installment of Bullpen Sessions. I'm Andy Relinko, and I'm here with fellow baseball analyst Terry Relinko. Good to have you here today, Terry.
It's good to be here, Andy.
So we're going to discuss a bunch of issues around Major League Baseball. Most notably, we're going to start off with the offseason and the different free agent signings. Terry, what did you think about this offseason?
Well, it didn't really get going until Albert Pujols signed with the Angels along with C.J. Wilson. And then recently, Prince Fielder really made a splash in Detroit.
The Angels did make a couple big signings. They really disrupted the power in the AL West, and they're going to be a big force to play with.
Yeah, no, I think the West is going to be actually very challenging this season. You look at the Texas Rangers, the former AL champs of last year and the year before, and then with the additions that the Angels have made, it looks to be a pretty big powerhouse division with the Seattle Mariners and even Oakland Athletics knocking at the door.
And the Texas Rangers also added Japanese sensation Yu Darvish. And the Rangers spent a lot of money to acquire this player through the bidding process and the actual contract. It's still to be seen whether he can actually pitch in the major leagues. It's a greatly different league than in Japan.
Well, I mean, to say the least, this guy was lights out in Japan. And if he can even carry over half of what he did facing hitters in Japan, then I think he's going to be a big addition for the Texas Rangers. And I really think the upside is there, and the sky's the limit for this guy.
A lot of teams did try to acquire this player, including the Blue Jays. We had heard that their offer for the bidding process was around $50 million, and the Rangers was $51. So really close in that ballpark there. It was a greatly debated topic whether they should or shouldn't go after him. But
Toronto is going to be very conservative in the way they acquire free agents. I think what Alex Anthopoulos is trying to do is absolutely the right one to sign, and it's going to looking at the roster as right today. Term for a lot of young talent. He's going to do young talent. He's going to use Ricky Romero to become the undisputed ace of the franchise with Brandon Morrow and Brett Cecil this year, and even a guy like Henderson Alvarez. They've got a lot of young talent and depth, and it would have been very nice to sign a player like Yu Darvish, but he is of the opinion that you don't want to overpay for an unknown avenue available to him to better this team.
Now, if the Blue Jays were to have signed Yu Darvish, I believe it would have been fantastic for not only on the field success, but also off, in creating a good brand for the multiculturalism of Toronto. There's a lot of Japanese fans around that would have been extremely excited to see one of their own pitching in a multicultural city like Toronto and in Canada in general. So I think that would have been fantastic for the brand of the Jays. Now, as we move on, we come to the Prince Fielder signing. And this did happen quite late in the offseason, and it was really quite a surprise to all of us.
Yeah, for a while there, it didn't look like Prince Fielder was going to find a home until Detroit scooped him up for 9 years. And I really think this is a nice signing for Detroit. It really stabilizes their lineup with Cabrera, Victor Martinez, who will miss the entirety of this season. But going forward, Prince Fielder is going to add a lot of gusto to Detroit.
Now, Cabrera is concerned, though, because he is a first baseman, and so is Prince Fielder. So how do you think that's going to work out on this team? I've heard that he's going to possibly be moving to third base, and that he's been working out. What do you think about this?
Well, for the meantime, he's going to remain a first baseman designated hitter, as Victor Martinez is out the entirety of the year. So it'll be an adjustment period. He'll slowly get some time at third base, get comfortable with it again. He was, of course, the third baseman when he was at Florida Marlins, so the position is not foreign to him, but it will be an adjustment mentally and physically. You have to get reacquainted with a position like third base where it comes down to just reactionary all the time.
Now, they do have two of the best sluggers in the game, definitely in the American League. They're going to be going up against the likes of the Angels and the Yankees in the playoffs. Now, what do you think their chances are of winning the World Series in the near future?
Well, let's hold the phone on the Yankees. It's yet to be seen whether they can pull through in the very tough American League East. I do think that the Angels are going to be in the playoffs this year. The Rangers have had their window of opportunity, and they have not succeeded in the last couple of years. So I look for a very competitive Western Division with the Angels coming out on top. I do think that Detroit will win the Central. I think that the Central Division is the weakest division in the American League by far. And if Boston can ever figure out their pitching situation and Carl Crawford can get acquainted in left field playing the monster, I think that Boston's going to pull through and win the East Division this year.
Boston's going to be there. I mean, they have a fantastic roster. The likes of Gonzalez, Crawford, as you mentioned, Pedroia. Their pitching, it's not going to let them down in the long term, so they're going to be up there this year.
Well, with the subtraction of John Lackey from the rotation, I think it really gives the young guys a chance to run with it now. John Lester and Clay Buchholz are up-and-coming pitchers, and they've proven themselves as stars. Now they just need to carry through and keep adding to that success. And I think that the Red Sox are going to be a force to be reckoned with this season.
And under the managerial strengths of Terry Francona, they actually had some locker room problems that were quite public and really took their team down in the end last season. So hopefully this will be a different story this year, and I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't know the extent of what went on there. There's reports that there was, beer drinking during the games and Kentucky Fried Chicken being ordered. But Terry Francona, that chapter of Boston Red Sox history is over, and it's up to Bobby Valentine now to take the reins and run with them.
Now, speaking of new managers, Ozzie Guillen moved over to be the manager of the Miami Marlins. An exciting team that had quite a few acquisitions in the offseason. They're opening up the new ballpark too, which looks fantastic, retractable roof. And I think everyone was quite surprised at how much they were in on the big signings of the winter.
Well, at any level, let's hope it can rejuvenate and excite some fans, because in the last years since they won their last title, they haven't had a great fan turnout at all. So hopefully with this new team they're putting on the field, all the new signings, and their new manager, the colorful Ozzie Guillen, who has been known to stir the pot, let's hope it can rejuvenate the city of Miami into coming out to see a ball game.
Yeah, it has been quite surprising, the lack of attendance in the Florida area teams in general. The Tampa Bay Braves and also the Marlins have really never gotten the attendance that they have wanted to, even though they've been good teams. One has won the World Series and the other has been to the World Series, and still they can't sustain that level of fans that needs to be there to create a winning attitude, a winning team, and an overall great experience.
I think it just goes to show that all Florida cares about is football.
That might be true, but they did make some great signings, and let's discuss a couple of those anyways.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jose Reyes, what can you say about this guy? Probably one of the more exciting players in all of baseball. He can play defense, he can steal bases, gets on base, hits for average. He's going to add a lot to that lineup. Unfortunately, Hanley Ramirez is quite a terrific shortstop as well, so he moves over to third base. There's a little bit of controversy there, but I think it's going to work out.
Yeah, the only problem there is his attitude, Ramirez we're talking about, and hopefully he can keep it under control and really start to thrive with that new attitude, the new team, the new players that are there. They also add a guy like Mark Buehrle, a great veteran presence that can really create a good attitude in that dressing room.
Yeah, Mark Buehrle is one of the better in baseball. He's in a sense like not as Doc Halladay-esque, but he pitches very quickly. He's a competitor. He's been on winning teams before, so he knows what it takes to win. And even a guy like Victor Zambrano coming over, I mean, that could prove to be not so great of a signing. But I think having Ozzie Guillen there, it'll calm everybody down. He knows how to run the clubhouse. So I look for the Marlins to be right there in the thick of it and compete for the East Division, if not the wild card.
Oh, I do think they're going to be much better than their record last year, almost 30 games under 500. But no, there's going to be a mixture of attitudes there that is going to be hard to control at times, I'm sure, especially with the media and the high expectations that they're going to have, because they've spent quite a bit of money. Adding also a guy like Heath Bell as their closer. Could turn out great, could turn out a little sour. So we'll see how that works out in the long run. But definitely an exciting team, and one that we're all looking forward to watching. And so now we're going to shift to some predictions. And Terry, I want to hear some of your thoughts on division winners and that kind of thing. I know you've discussed a couple of them already, but let's start off with the National League and we see the division winners.
Well, keeping with the East, I'm looking for the Phillies to have a big year. Doc Halladay, Cliff Lee, and Cole Hamels are three of the best in the game, and I think it's really time for them to prove that they are contenders and not so much contenders, but World Series contenders. So I look for them to come out on top in the East with the Miami Marlins hot at their heels. I think Miami's going to really give the division a run for its money, and not to forget about the Atlanta Braves, who had a great season last year and just came a little short.
Who do you see being the worst team in that division? It's a hard call there.
Oh, you know what, Andy? I got to say the Mets. They're just in utter turmoil from ownership to on-field. They're just a mess right now, and I don't think the Mets are going to be very set this year at all.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that opinion. So we'll move to the Central now, and who do you like there?
You know what, the NL Central was always a bit of a wild card. You never really know who's going to come out on top. I mean, look at you got your defending World Series champs in the Cardinals there, and you got the Milwaukee Brewers, who made a real push in the playoffs last year. But I think, actually looking at the offseason acquisitions, I see the Cincinnati Reds really pouring it on here. They got Matt Latos in their rotation now, with a guy like Joey Votto and Brandon Phillips on the right side of the diamond. I look for them to be the front runners in that division. And Aroldis Chapman has still not proven what he's capable of, and this guy can really throw the ball.
Yeah, and Milwaukee has lost Prince Fielder, so that's going to take away some of their punch, leaving just sort of Braun as their main guy.
Having said all that, you never want to count out the St. Louis Cardinals. These guys have proven to be coming all the way up from underdogs and winning the World Series last year. They still have a formidable lineup and power punch in the rotation, so look for them to be right in the thick of it all year long.
Okay, so now we move to the West, and who do you like there?
Well, you don't want to discount what the Arizona Diamondbacks did last year. I mean, they were there all year long. You know, they had great pitching and some solid production from their lineup. I still look at San Francisco as being the top flight of that division. You got Tim Lincecum, you got Matt Cain, Baumgartner in the starting rotation, and then you look at some of their bullpen hands and Brian Wilson. I still think that San Francisco is going to pull it together this year and come out on top of that division.
All right, so now we move back to the American League, and we're going to go right to the West. And who do you like from that 4-team division?
Well, this is a tough one because it is 4 teams, and there are some very good teams in there. You've got the Texas Rangers, 2-year AL champions, signing Yu Darvish, a big signing, losing C.J. Wilson, however. And then you look at what the LA Angels did this year, or pardon me, Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles, whatever they're called these days. Anyways, signing Pujols, that is a big move for them, and I think that with Mike Scioscia's managing skills, I think that team is gonna come out on top of the West.
And you still see Oakland and Seattle as rebuilding teams. They're Seattle threw away Michael Pineda to the Yankees. They got a great price for him, but
yeah, they did. But I still see Seattle and Oakland being major reclamation projects, and they're going to have to do a lot of work to compete with the big boys in the West.
Yeah, exactly. So moving to the Central, as we talked about the Tigers being in there and probably taking it over. Is that your pick for the Central?
Yeah, I don't think it's even close here. The only team I could see maybe giving Detroit a run for their money in that division is a team like Minnesota or not. You know, with their falling out last year, I think they'd have to do a lot to come back and regain their triumph over the Central Division. I like Detroit going forward. Verlander is probably the best in the American League right now, and having a guy like Prince Fielder added to your lineup, I think they're going to come out on top.